Saenz, the ambassador for Argentina to Ireland, has come down from Dublin. And then I will talk about some pictures, which a few years ago, the Reverend Malcolm Findlay, from somewhere in America, in England, kindly donated. And they are top-class portraits of the Armstrong family in West Offaly, and particularly in Banagher. I would say a few words about them. Mike Feerick from Ireland Reaching Out. Thanks, Mike. We'll just say a few words about his business, and it was he who prompted this sort of meeting here today. He knew that Eduardo was coming to Ireland, and particularly, this time, wanted to come to Banagher and Bar and Tullamore and wherever there was a distillery.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we'll hand over to Eduardo himself. So, first of all, people to give a huge Banagher welcome to the ambassador from Argentina, Ana Laura Pachaz.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to be here today and to hear about the stories Eduardo is going to share with us. We are deeply proud of the connections between Ireland and Argentina, and I don't know if you're aware of those, but there are many connections between both countries, mainly because of the Irish who emigrated to Argentina in the 19th century, and those were tens of thousands of Irish who chose our country, and we are very proud of that as well, to be as their home. And they made great contributions to Argentina, and many of those were very important people in Argentina. We are going to learn about one of them today. We're very lucky that Eduardo can be here to tell us about that. And they did great things in our country. And that is why, and many of them went to Argentina from this area, from central, the central part of Ireland. Many of them also from Longford Westmeath, which is very close from here. And now, thanks to those men and women who went there, the Irish diaspora in Argentina is the 5th largest in the whole world. I mean, it is the largest in a country, in a non-English speaking country. More than 500,000 people in Argentina claim Irish ancestry. So that's very huge, and that also makes my work here as ambassador of Argentina to Ireland much easier, because there are strong foundations on which we can make the relationship between both countries grow and move forward, and that's very important. So thank you very much for welcoming me here today, and I'm very happy to be here to hear of the stories of Thomas Armstrong from Eduardo. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Anna. This is not Anna's first trip to the Midlands. Earlier this year in February, she was in Ballymahon in Longford for the conclusion of the Westmeath, Longford,
Yes,
Ireland,
I was there.
Ireland-Argentina Oral History Project. It's very strong here, and I think the Armstrongs of Banagher might have been involved in recruiting people from the Longford-Westmeath border. I have a great memory years ago of listening to a farming programme on Saturday morning with a fellow called Murray was the presenter. I can't remember his first name, but he was John. He was talking about his ancestors in Argentina, and he interviewed them. And you would think he was talking no offence to anybody, would think he was talking to people from Westmeath and Offaly, and ourselves. The dialect was there and still very much surviving. But to move on to the pictures, a few years ago, the Reverend Malcolm Finlay. Now, Malcolm, I'm not too sure, but he is in some way connected with. You remember Barbara Boyle, who was married to Canon Richard Boyle. Yeah, Canon Dick Boyle up at Hill House, and before that she was not intending to be funny, but she was Barbara Boyle Nee Armstrong. So she was an Armstrong, and I don't know, but Malcolm wanted to give these wonderful portraits to County Offaly. So the only really a place for them at that stage was the Offaly Archive and the Offaly Library in Tullamore. So we went over today to have a look, and as Damien Martin has very, very correctly observed, isn't there some similarities? Of course, we shouldn't say the spitting image, but there you are. But there you are. There he is, 1797 or 98, 99 or 99, depending where you look. But this is Thomas St. George Armstrong, that Eduardo is
Grandfather.
Great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, I think, and that's who we will be talking about. So there are 7 portraits. Archibald Armstrong of Ballylin. I mean, there's hardly anywhere you can go in West Offaly that wasn't an Armstrong settlement. Banagher, Ballylin, Claremont, Garrycastle, Castle Armstrong, Ballycumber, even in Lusma, won't tell me now, Ashgrove House, and even Anatton Key out towards Stockholm. So they were well spread all over Offaly. And this is one of the first that came, Archibald, 1655, and he died in 1747. And this is Mrs. Letitia, I think, rather than Celilia, married to Archibald of Ballylin, a daughter of Colonel Edward Plaisted, the granddaughter of the first Earl of Roscommon. It was important to marry well. William Armstrong of Endrum, not too sure, even Kieran Keane in all his great work, we weren't too sure about where the Armstrong house was in Endrum, but there was certainly 1 or 2 of them styled as of Endrum. Okay, this is Edward, the son of Archibald, and his first wife, Letitia. He married Rebecca, the daughter of Bygo Hensel. Now, Bygo is a very important name in the Armstrong genealogy, and they are all connected with the Bygos who came to Offaly in the early 1620s, bringing what was probably the first industry into this part of the county. They were glassmakers, and I remember once talking with old Frank Troy, that would be John and Jim's grandfather, and I said, did you ever hear of a glass factory in Lusma? He said, yes, there was 7. Well, this was a very wise man. So I went back to him and I said, you were telling me there was 7. Yeah, he said, they were like lime kilns. They would burn all the wood around them, and then the kiln itself would burn out, so they'd build another one. So they had several kilns, one of which survives in Shinrone. Anyway. Now, this is
the father.
Thomas.
Father.
Thomas is St. George Armstrong of Garrycastle, the father of Carteret Andrew Armstrong, Thomas St. George Armstrong, William Bible Armstrong, and John Priulx. Prio, I think, is how that's pronounced, Armstrong. I have a letter from him written in Castle Garden House. Now, that's what he called Garrycastle House. Castle Garden House in 1798. And there's rebellion And I was delighted to see that there were lots of rebels in this area, and not necessarily confined to Wicklow, Carlow, Kilkenny, and Wexford, of course. But there were a lot of pikes being made, and he's documenting this, and he's naming some of the pike makers. But he does, in his letter from Castle Garden House, make this outrageously wonderful statement. All the trouble here emanates from the parish of Lusma, which is a neighbouring parish with which there is great rivalry. Okay. But it was good stuff. And this is Thomas St. George again, of Buenos Aires. And of course, Banagher going out, as Eduardo will tell you, at the very early age of 19 or 20. To become a very successful man. And this is
The wife.
Donna Justa de Villanova, daughter of the alcalde. The alcalde was the Lord Mayor.
Yes, called alcalde or there's intendente and now government of.
Okay, in Buenos Aires. And this is William Bygo Armstrong, 1800 to 1866.
The third son of.
Third son.
Okay.
And I think he built a distillery in one of the first. There were two Armstrong distilleries, but this was built out in Garrycastle, and it's there in the valuations about 1840. And there's a very detailed description of the distillery, which I must get to you. So that's William, and again, the name Bygo is cropping up there. And this is C.A.
The first.
Armstrong. The first.
Yes.
Carteret Andrew Armstrong of Garrycastle.
He studied in the Trinity College.
His father was in Trinity College.
Yes.
And he was the man responsible. He was the man who was buried in the Armstrong crypt up in the old graveyard. And I'd like to thank the Banagher main shed for spending a lot of time this week cutting the grass so we can have a nice walk up there at some stage tomorrow. Okay, so that's Carteret Andrew Armstrong. He died in 1869, and among the attendees at his funeral was the Arthur Bell Nichols of the Hill House. I don't quite know where to put this man in, okay, but this is from Buck's Peerage, and what's important is what's underlined in red, okay? In his time, a new stone bridge over the Shannon at Banagher was commenced, and Mr. Armstrong had the principal share not only in obtaining the presentment, getting the money from local government, such as it was at the time, for raising the money in the county, but also in conducting the work. It was finished in the reign of James II, I think 1685, and Margaret, his wife's eldest daughter, was the first female that passed over it. Why wasn't it his wife? All will be revealed. So now I'm going to hand over to Eduardo, who will speak about Thomas St. George of Banagher and Buenos Aires.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, first, thank you to the opportunity to speak about Thomas Armstrong. I want to show some photos. This is an invitation of the family Armstrong to President Roca to a party. This is the residence Armstrong El Hortondo outside Buenos Aires. The family donated this to the Catholic seminary. Now is Catholic seminary. This is the city of Armstrong in the province of Santa Fe. It's a big city, agricultural and cattle. This is our budget on the history. This I bought in Ireland in 1985 when I visit. This is a beer of Armstrong city.
Is it good?
Very good, very good. These are our colors, and this is an invitation of the president of your country, me. I don't remember the name of the president.
Mary McAleese.
To the embassy when she visited Argentina. Thomas have one phrase very, very nice that he writes in a book of Michael Mulhall. He say he was a practical man and never loved and finished anything he once began. Well, really, for us, we are very proud with Thomas. I want to tell how we discovered Thomas, because my family is Spanish. My surname is Garcia Fernandez Saenz. And all my ancestors are Spanish. But my grandfather was Thomas Armstrong. We have a farm near Mar del Plata. This farm is in our hands from 1868, and is the budget in the living room, and everybody see the budget, and nobody can link Armstrong with Garcia Fernandez. Never say, because my grandfather don't speak about, and well, and many days I investigated, and sometimes, yes, Johnny Armstrong from Canoby near Langholm in Scotland give some way to understand Armstrong in Scotland and then Armstrong in Thurman in Ireland. But it's not easy for Argentinian or South America people to get information. And well, I bought sometimes a blue guide of Ireland, and I discovered a Garrycastle, and then 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and we developed, I remember in 2002, and we invited Paula Slattery, the ambassador of Ireland in Argentina, and have a great party, all Armstrong, 200 Armstrong descended from Argentina. But I explained to the people, we are very, very proud with this, but it's very difficult to us to discover this, because Armstrong is not a traditional surname from Ireland, because comes from Scotland and then came to Ireland. And well, in this way, when we discover, we are very enthusiastic and put in touch with all the people that we are relatives, and study all the history of Thomas. Thomas was the first married between Church of Ireland and Catholic, and it must to develop a bureaucratic permission, right to the alcalde, right to the priest, Catholics, and well, I have the document at home, and he married in April 1827 by civil, married. Then in 12th of July, Catholic, and then in St. John's Church, Church of England or Church of Ireland, the third married. 3 married to finish all the tramit, and well, was very happy, but is a very well, it's very hard to develop, and he do it the compromise that the boys or the daughters and the son educated in the Catholic religion. But Thomas was Church of Ireland, but helped a lot Father Fahey and the Catholic people, and of course Church of Ireland in Argentina. Is involved in the 2 religions, working for Argentinian people, and this was a very, very good for our union, very, very well union in between the 2 religions. Thomas, his mother was from Priol, from Guernsey Island, and James told there are 4 brothers. 2 come to Argentina, the Thomas and the eldest, and some of these also send the boys. William Bigot sent the boys and develop some business, but all return. Only Thomas stay in Argentina. Thomas have about 8 sons. The first, Gabriel, who died 16 years old here in Ireland, in Garrycastle, had at 16 years old have a tragedy here, have a big problem. Thomas sent to study in Ireland and have a problem here. Perhaps I don't know what happened, but then the second is Isabel Francisca, my grandmother, married with Federico Lortondo. This is the house of my family. And she have 5 daughters and 1 son. Then a single, Emma Armstrong. Then other boy, Thomas. I say in Spanish because there are in Spanish the names. Thomas Andrés died little. Then Justa Josefa is other single. Juan de la Cruz also died childhood. Maria Dolores Armstrong, married with 12, was a very important Belgium family. And the last, Thomas St. George's Armstrong Villanueva, who married with a Portuguese woman, say that is a daughter near the King of Portugal. Well, the Thomas St. George's bought Garrycastle to one of the owners of Garrycastle at the end of the life of one of the owner. The family of William Bigot is a big surprise when the people when Malcolm send the information. I cannot understand nothing about, because the family of William Vigo put the names of the children with names in Spanish. For example, Isabel Elortondo Armstrong, married with William Spray. Then Justa Honoria Villanueva Armstrong, married with Thomas Augusto White. Then Elizabeth Prio Armstrong. Well, we don't understand. When we received all the papers, we don't understand nothing. But it's common in these years, excuse my English, please. In these years, it's common to put names that use the different families. Well, we learned this. Well, the Thomas Armstrong family, and Thomas, was a very, very good businessman. And he are involved in many, many business with the railways, with the stock exchange, with lands, have hundreds of hectares in the province of Buenos Aires and province of Santa Fe and province of Entre Rios. The family then are not very good administrators of the lands, but some parts of the family receive the land and others sell the land. Was one of the founders of the British Hospital, and here he helped to St. Reinach church, the bells, and the site también. And well, he came 2 times here, in 1826, and he married in 1827. But before he came to Ireland, say to his brother John, if I died, you must marry with Justa Villanueva. Write this. I saw the volunteer. Well, he returned and married with Justa Villanueva, and then returned to Ireland in 1858. And I am the first ancestor of Thomas that I've returned to Ireland 168 years after the last trip of Thomas. I'm very happy because it's not easy to say 2 or 3 years ago I want to go to Ireland, because my first time in Ireland was in 1985 to arrange a rugby tour of my club, and I don't know, in this moment I don't know where Armstrong lived or born. And now I came to help many people, and I came with details about the life of my grandfather. Well, for me, I'm very proud to come like the first. I prefer open the way, and this film sent to all the Argentinians to come next time and offer the hotel, nice hotel that you invited to go, because it's open, it's nice, and perhaps some of my relatives can come to the hotel. I take the train Dublin Tullamore, very good, no problem. It's easy to come to Banagher, no problem. And James helped me and my wife, and perhaps many of our relatives will come here. Well, now the businessman. Remember the phrase, remember what say that he was a practical man and never loved and finished anything he once began. He helped the Queen Victoria in advice. He is an advisor to Queen Victoria. Really, the relation between England and, not England, UK or Great Britain, Argentina are badly in this moment, and he helped to develop a good relation, and also he helped to do the business of the railway in Argentina. And this is a good work that he do it. His father sent and his brother to Buenos Aires to run the merchant house Armstrong and Company, established in 1826. Thomas traveled back to Ireland together with Thomond O'Brien, trying to recruit immigrants from Ballymore, Mullingar area which straddled the Westmeath-Longford border. The Armstrong family were the local landlord and were still highly respected in that locality. He was appointed the director of the National Bank, the Bank of Buenos Aires Province, and the Republic Credit. In 1859, Armstrong founded the Argentine insurance company La Estrella. Isn't bank, isn't insurance. He founded the Stranger Club. All Stranger Club are all the businessmen, strangers of outside our country, from England, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Germany, have a Stranger Club to develop business, and Thomas was one of the founders. Well, he was the president of the Southern Railways. The Southern Railways is Central Southern Railway unit. Rosario, Córdoba is the most important way to the agriculture and cattle in this moment. Well, he also established rural colonies, particularly in Santa Fe. I say, have a lot of lands. President of the Stock Exchange in 1875 and 1878. Well, was the alma mater of the World Railway, and the Armstrong City was founded in his honor in 1882. He died in 1875. In 1882, the government founded the Armstrong City, and was a very influential person in the President Rodriguez and in the presidents of Avellaneda. Well, Father Fahey, when arrived from Ireland to Argentina, Thomas Armstrong give apartment and pay the rent or the rent, no, sí, pay the alquiler for Father, the expenses of the Father Fahey durante many years, and he also help Father Fahey in all the charity the develop of Father Fahey and all the collectivity Irish in Argentina. There are many books speaking about Thomas. Some of these are in English and some of these are in Spanish. I write some of these in English. One is The 1,000 Miles Ride Through the Argentine Province by William Buchanan, 1853. He speaks about the estancia of Thomas Armstrong. Then a 5 years residence in Buenos Aires during the years 1820 to 1825 by an Englishman, London. Suppose Thomas George Love, founder of British Packet, was the anonymous of this English writer. And then there are other very near. I read in my career in economy, Britain and Argentinian in the 19th century, Oxford, at the Clarendon Press in 1960 by Ferns, speak about Thomas Armstrong. Really, when we study this businessman and this human man, we put in the best of our heroes. But the heroes that we saw, perhaps at Admiral Brown, because fight in our independence war, but many of people that work in our lands and develop our country put Argentina in 1985, 90, in one of the 10 most important countries, and we are at that moment in potential in the 10 more important countries all over the world. And now it's not in the same way. We are looking, and when I visit now your country and I see all the progress in Portugal, in Ireland, in other countries, say, "Oh, what happened?" Because we are a rich country, but we are not in a way to develop rich for all people or develop to other progress, perhaps in the future. But now we are with nebulous, and Thomas do it all the way to develop the country with the railways, with the lands, with the cereals, with the help, with the charity for the people, and his daughter Isabel Armstrong del Hortondo do it the same way that his father. He is a charity person. He gives the Armstrong Foundation gives 70 hectares to develop the study for poor people to degree in agricultural to learn agriculture and cattle, and nowadays there are working with little boys, and well, it's functionary, and the brothers, LaSalle brothers, give the all government to show the foundation, Armstrong Foundation, and for me it's very important to develop to put Thomas Armstrong in one of the most important places all over Argentina and Ireland, nothing more. If I'm sorry, if somebody want a question, I answer. If not, I finish.
Okay, we'll be adjourning up the street and loads of time to ask questions. But sorry, I should have gone to Mike Fearig before I went to Eduardo. I'll go to you now, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a few brief words. Just to explain who I am. Mike Fearig is my name. I grew up not far away from Intiernastra, just north of Portumna. And I have a business, it's a tech business, and I get to go around the world. And but I also have a charity interest in that I've always been interested in Irish diaspora. And I started an organisation called Ireland Reaching Out 16, 17 years ago. And it's a group of volunteers around Ireland who, when people are trying to come back to Ireland and they want to find their own communities, that they can go onto irelandxo.com and they can say who they are. And then one of our volunteers, when they come to Ireland, will show them the house that they were born in, the farm, the land that people farmed before they went to America, bring them to the graveyard and show them their ancestors and introduce them to living relatives. And we've been doing this for 16, 17 years, and we've introduced tens of thousands of people around the world to people. So if anybody's interested in Ireland Reaching Out, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. But I've always been interested in diaspora anywhere I go, and I love to get groups to talk to people about it. In Australia, from Savannah, Georgia, wherever. I'm just interested in Irish history. How I got connected here, it was that obviously I know James through history because East Galway's not that far away, and of course Lusman's part of Galway. Thank you very much. And maybe that's, yeah. But in any case, so I was traveling. I was in Buenos Aires in November, and of course I was interested in diaspora, and I got to talk to a very remarkable man called Guillermo. I'm not pronouncing that right. Guillermo McLaughlin, who happens to be kind of the Irish historian in Argentina. Some of you may be familiar with the Southern Cross. It's a very famous Irish diaspora newspaper, and it was first published in 1875, and it's the longest running Irish diaspora magazine newspaper in the world, and it's still going. And remarkably, the Irish government and the Argentinian government have taken the archives of that, are archiving them and translating them into English. So when you talk about the Armstrongs and every other Irish person that came from Offaly and went to Argentina, there's going to be some remarkably new primary research to be able to access and to the tracing. But I was talking to Guillermo, and I went out to the hurling club, and I'll just mention Father Fahy as well. I live for the last 30 years in Loughrea, and Father Fahy is a remarkable character. I'll mention him in a minute, but he's from Loughrea, and that was another interest in Argentina generally. So I was traveling, got to meet Guillermo McLaughlin in Buenos Aires, and he says, you have to meet this man. And then we went away, and he says, I have to come to Ireland. And then he told me where his connections were, and he says, Banagher. And then I just put up the map, and I showed him where Tiernaspor was and where Banagher was. And it's less than 20 miles away, so I connected him with James. But just to say, so that's what Ireland Reaching Out does, and that's how my connection for today is. Just want to talk some basic stuff about our Irish people in Argentina. Why did they go and who went? Just a bit of background. So actually, who was the first Irish people? Anybody have any idea who the first Irish people to South America were? Any ideas at all? All right, so it's quite famous. Ferdinand Magellan, what's he famous for? Yes, he went around the world, right? He was the first guy to go around the world. He had 3 Irish people on his ship. And that was in 1520.
Yeah.
So they reckon that they're the first 3 Irish. Now, they're not named, but they were definitely on the records of the ship. And it was notoriously dangerous to go on a ship. Hundreds went with him in the ship, and only 18 people came back alive. So they went around the world, and that was great, but you didn't come back with many people. So it was tough to be an explorer that way. And then, but the people that we know names of, there was 2 Farrell brothers, and they went with the Mendoza family from Spain, and they were among the founding families of Buenos Aires, and they were in Buenos Aires in 1536. So they're definitely the first Irish people that we can trace to modern day Argentina. But when we look at the Argentinian diaspora today, and it is somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million people, it's made up of a big collage. The ambassador kindly mentioned about the Westmeath and the Longford people, but they weren't the first. Actually, the first people were the explorers that we mentioned. But there's a crazy history of Irish people trying to go to South America and create plantations, and didn't succeed. Yeah, and in the 1600s, so a lot of dispossession. All of it, everyone here is pretty much interested in history. But obviously, there was a lot of dispossession in Ireland, and people who were well educated and had a few quid were forced out of Ireland. So they went to wherever they could. But they started plantations at the mouth of the Amazon River in Brazil, and they went on to Argentina, but most of those were cleared off. So the first group of Irish people in South America or in Argentina were kind of the explorers. The second crowd were the Jesuits. So obviously Irish, very Catholic, whatever. So the monks. So there was a lot of monks and friars, and of course a lot of people, the wild geese of Ireland, kicked out of Ireland here. Where did they go? They went to Europe, and a lot went to Spain. Right, and when they went to Spain, there was a lot of priests in it, and they then went on the missions to South America. So the first major kind of Irish, besides the explorers, were in the dozens, but the priests went in their hundreds, and they were Irish people based in Spain. And then another type of immigration was, of course, that during the times of Cromwell and whatever, and then the forcible removement of so many Irish families from land in Ireland, and a lot went to Spain. And they went to Spain because the Spanish gave them special status. If any of you go on holidays to Spain, it's something that we often remark about. It's about that the Irish had a special status because they were Catholic, and most of the people that were kicked out, well, if they were kicked out and they went to Spain, they had to have money, right? So money rules, right? So they had a special authority there. And then they didn't stay in Spain. They went off, and they went off from Spain to Argentina. So one thing that makes a great difficulty in tracing the lineage of Irish people in Spain is that they changed their names. So Murphy became something, you might guess what they might be, but there was all of the name, a lot of the names got changed, right? And they made them more Spanish. So for us now in this generation trying to figure out who they are, it is a challenge. So they were the Spanish people, but there was families like Cullen, the Duggans. You might have heard of the Duggan family, a very wealthy family in Argentina, but they weren't directly from Ireland. They went to Spain. They were called Dugan, and they went off there. Some of you have been in the Canary Islands. You might have seen the Cullen estates. They were Dublin people that went to the Canaries, and from the Canaries they went to Argentina. So a lot of the Irish in Argentina went through Spain over hundreds of years. The fourth area is British soldiers. Sadly, we were part of the British Empire, right? And we were sailing as part of the British Navy everywhere and part of the British Army. I think it's famous that 50% of the Irish Army in India was always Irish. Of course, they sent the Irish to as far away from home as possible, and they sent the Essex Regiment to London, to Loughrea. But in any case, and the fifth thing was then what the ambassador kindly said about the farmers, right? So, but these were peculiar. There was an interesting fact about the Irish that went to Argentina. It was a lot of them. The reason that they went, they were not from the poorest parts of Ireland. Like Longford Westmeath at the time was not the poorest parts of Ireland. You had rural Galway, Mayo, Kerry, and all that were worse off. Often you had large families, and the second son and the third son was well educated, but wasn't going to get the farm, right? So they were the people that went abroad. So Argentina then was in receipt of actually well-educated, young, ambitious people from relative means, okay? And that was a difference about the people that went to Argentina versus the people that went to America, because the floods that went to America were often people who were at really needy and not well-educated. And that is one of the reasons why the Irish, certainly the early Irish in Argentina, did particularly well. And so that's who it kind of went. Then a curiosity I had was why did the early Irish do so well in Argentina? And I really only came to, I think, understand why that's the case. One was the reason that they came from a relatively well-educated from the families that they came from. The other thing that was, it's gone out of my head now. Let me think. Why were they doing well? The education and...
Wealth?
No, oh God, sorry, let me think now a second. Maybe I'll come back to it.
Language?
No, God, it's not something gone out of my head. All right. I'll come back to it. I'm sorry. I had a long day. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but in any case, the other thing is, all right. So let's move on. Father Fahy. Who was Father Fahy? Mentioned a couple of times. Father Fahy was a remarkable man. He was born in Loughrea in the early 1800s, and he was a Dominican priest. He was educated in Esker, and he was sent out to Argentina to be the priest there. But he was an extraordinary man because he was a great organizer. And he went into Buenos Aires, and he organized the community, and he was very famous for a couple of things, but one thing was I know what I was going to say, about how did they get the money. All right. Let me come back to Father Fahy. It was first the education, and then it was the system of money making in Argentina. So they came over, they were relatively penniless. How did they get money? Right, what had happened was that there was some Irish merchants that had gone out singularly before, and they brought all of these people over to sheep farm. But they had a system called halves. And essentially, the deal was, you come over as an Irish person, you are given a couple of thousand sheep by a local farmer, and you're told, these 1,000 acres are yours. In 3 years' time, we're going to come back. You breed the sheep, and you multiply that flock, and we're going to come back, and we're going to take half the flock, but you keep the other half. And it was a very simple system of halves. But it was a remarkable way that Irish people with a bit of speed and a bit of hard work and knowing how to raise sheep could actually acquire the land and then make some money. So that's the two things. Sorry for the interlude. The education and the system of halves. And then back to Father Fahy. So Father Fahy was extraordinary, a very ambitious, smart guy, organised well. But he's famous for a couple of things. One is, a lot of these sheep farmers came over from Westmeath and Longford, but they didn't bring wives, and they needed women, all right? They didn't want to marry them to the locals. So what did Father Fahy do? He came back to Banagher in East Galway and brought out a rake of women. and he was famous for that, not just to go to Banagher up in the mountains, a matchmaker. And he was famous for that. And of course, who did they trust in the local area? They trusted the priest. Well, they needed a bank. So they went into the bank, and they went in the bank manager, and they couldn't write. So, but here's the padre here beside me, and he'll sign for everything. And when he died, he was on so many bank accounts that they had a query saying, how can this man be on so many national accounts? So he technically died a very, very wealthy man. But if you go to Buenos Aires, and you go to the Recoleta, which is a graveyard in the middle of Buenos Aires, there is a very famous graveyard. And in the middle of it, I was very surprised to see Eva Peron. We've all heard of Eva Peron. Well, she has a very small, inconspicuous little grave over on the side. The two bigger graves there are Father Fahy and William Brown. Right? And I was astounded that this Father Fahy has such a lovely situation. William Brown, most of you have heard of him. Yeah. He went out from Foxford at 16 years of age, went to Philadelphia. He was as American as he was Irish, but don't tell the people in Foxford that. But anyway, his main claim for fame, in 1814, the Spanish Navy was defeated, and he was well thanked for that. And of course, Che Guevara is the other one that we often remark about. I grew up being told that Lynch was his grandmother from Banagher. Not the case. So his ancestor was a Patrick Lynch, who left Galway in 1715, and it was his great-great-grandfather. And his family claimed that he had Irish blood, and he did. But Maureen O'Hara said that Che Guevara told him one time that he learned all his Irish from his grandmother's knee. And apparently that was totally not the case, because he came when he was interviewed by the Irish press, and he says, I don't know anything about my Irish heritage, ask my father. So Maureen O'Hara was there. Anyway, that's just a little bit of flavour. I think, generally speaking, as the ambassador says, it's the 5th biggest diaspora in the world. We have had all this great connection with America. America's changing in many ways. And just as Irish people globally, we should be reaching out to our diaspora around the world. And the final comment is, I was lucky enough to go to school. Horacio Larreta, the mayor of Buenos Aires.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I went to school with him in America. And he's an old friend of mine. So he was the mayor of Buenos Aires for the last 8 years. And I was at a school reunion with him about 5-6 years ago. And he said to me, Mike, you've got to come to Buenos Aires and help me with the Irish diaspora, with the Irish diaspora vote. And I thought the guy was, you're having me on. And then I learned a little bit about the Irish diaspora, and it's 1 million strong in Argentina. So it's nothing significant, and we should celebrate our links. So, anyway, enough for that.
Mike, that was a terrific finale. although we have just a small bit of house business to do. We're really thrilled that this occasion has come to pass. I mean, it was a huge undertaking to travel so far to come to Banagher, and Eduardo and Rene, we appreciate that. And we'd like to show you our appreciation. We're going to get a person born in Garrycastle.
No, I was born in Ballinasloe.
Born in Ballinasloe.
But I came 10 days old from the hospital. My mother, they kept women in for about 10 days. So it was my home for 34 years. Wonderful years, happy years. And back in the 60s, I had so much freedom to ramble the woods and the fields and the callows and play with Damien's cousins. Damien was born in Castle Garden House. I was up there countless times. And my cousins in Dublin loved Garrycastle, my cousins in Limerick loved Garrycastle. One of them would be put on the bus. The day he got his summer holidays at the end of June, he'd come home and say, is my case packed? And he'd have his lunch and he'd be put on the bus to Banagher. And he came many, many years. Sadly, he passed away some years ago.
Okay. So
Now,
we're going to get Pauline to make this presentation of a fine watercolour by Paul Bennett of Banagher, and it's of the Bridge of Banagher, as drawn in 1821 by George Petrie. But in 1821, it's the old bridge that we think Thomas Armstrong would have caused to be built in 1685. And it was finished by him, and as I said, Margaret, his eldest daughter, was the first female to pass over. So this intrigued us for a long time, until we were in the graveyard up the street where an awful lot of the Armstrongs are built, and we found above the crypt 2 stones that had been sort of incorporated into the wall. And one of them read as follows. Here lie at the body of Griselle Armstrong, who died the 7th day of October, 1680. So she had died before the bridge had been built. And immediately under that is another different stone, Armstrong, 4, BR, New Line, OTHERS, 4 Brothers, 1700. And that's another mystery that we have to try and unravel. So I call on Pauline now to present this picture of Banagher Bridge, which Thomas Armstrong would have caused to be. He went fundraising, and as the fellow says, not only did he raise the money, but also conducted the progress of the work. So we'd like to present that to you, Eduardo.
so, great pleasure.
And we'll get it into your case somehow.
Yeah. I present this painting to you,
Okay.
and I hope you will look at it and think of, well, you will never forget your ancestor, but you will remember Banagher.
Yes, thank you very much.
Very well.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Thank you. It's very difficult to pick up to Buenos Aires. This
Have you a case big enough?
to pick this to Buenos Aires.
Case valise.
Well, wow. I think
You will fit, or you will can buy one.
Yes.
You can buy one
Yes.
if necessary,
Yes.
And-
Yo lo llevo.
and
Yes.
with lots
well,
of.
well. Okay. Many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry. I have a little problem with Ryanair. At the moment, I must to confirm because I fly from Dublin to Santiago Compostela, but the Spanish closed the airport, and Ryanair closed the fly, and now I say okay. They sent to me to Madrid.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Vamos a Madrid. Sorry. Well,
Beautiful, eh?
Vamos a Madrid.
Thank you.
Okay, wait a moment, James.
Who's present?
My speech was formal, but I want to say thank you, James, thank you, Mike, thank you, all the people, because I don't know if you understand my English.
Yes.
No, well, but I'm very happy to speak here in Banagher, near my ancestor place, and I don't say thank you because I'm very formal there in this place.
Yes.
But now we finish all. Thank you, and Ambassador also to 200, and thank you for the paint to you also. And the Offaly archives, because today I saw the Offaly archive and I asked if in Ireland there are a good archive like Offaly. And there are not. There are not. And
No, we're good, yeah.
it's,
Breda Kenny is here, manager of the Offaly History bookshop, the lecture hall, and the archive.
it's fantastic.
Eduardo was there today, where he saw the Armstrong portraits, but he was totally overwhelmed with the bookshop and the library and the research area and the lecture hall and so on. And he was full of praise.
Yes.
So,
I am investigator of the public library in Buenos Aires. It's very difficult to get this title because the bureaucratic finished 3 years, and when you see the newspaper, all newspaper in our library, the paper are broken, very, very bad. And when I saw the archive, see, this is the good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the people who investigated the history in the newspaper, say fantastic. And today I saw a fantastic office about archives, and this I want to tell.
we made 3 stops between Tullamore and Banagher. Tullamore due just to look at the building. But he said that Edward Dewey that way, entry. He went in and he wanted to buy everything, but Ryanair prevented that. We then pulled up in Faithful Fields and we talked about hurling and football and how oft they got the name Faithful County and so on. And then last of all, we pulled up the small church in English. And we went to see the grave of another great local man from Derrenloch, William Bulfin, who went out to Argentina. And Eduardo was delighted to hear about him. And what I didn't realise is this is a new edition of William Bulfin's Rambles in Erin. It came out only in 2023. And if I had known that the preface was written by a man called, it's coming to me now, T.K. Maloney. And in the preface he says, I have been just finished researching a biography of William Bulfin. And that's why he was called on to do the preface to the book. I'm just going to read 2 short paragraphs. And you'll get a lot of the parallels between Thomas Armstrong and William Bulfin a little bit later on, but practically at the same age they leave. Bulfin left Ireland for Argentina in 1884, aged 21, and did not return until 1902. During these 18 years, he worked initially as a sheep herder and a foreman at an estancia, or ranch, in Buenos Aires province. And then, having discovered a talent for writing and encouraged by his fiancée, Annie O'Rourke, he turned to journalism and joined the staff of a local English language paper, the Southern Cross, which is still running, as I mentioned. He joined that in 1892, where he became manager and assistant editor. As a working journalist, he wrote these descriptive, illuminating, and socially critical sketches of Buenos Aires. depictions of the life in the city at the time, as well as many articles and editorials. In January 1896, he bought out the previous incumbent and took over as editor of the newspaper. He used the earlier experiences he had on sheep runs and as a ranch hand to compose short stories, initially printed in the Southern Cross, and then as material for his collection of short stories, Tales from the Pampas, published in London in 1901. So that's another man I think that we should honour, and hopefully in the months to come we'll have another Argentinian evening here. We will get T.K. Maloney to come down and talk to us about William Bulfin. Now, why did we pull up at English Church? Because I wanted to show Eduardo and Rene something very special. When you walk past the church, you will come to the grave of Eamon Bulfin, who raised the flag at the GPO. And then you will also see the grave of William Bulfin, who is described as William Bulfin Che Bueno, which I'm still working on the translation of that. But in front of it is a beautiful bronze plaque in memory of William Bulfin. December, I think, 1910, from the Buenos Aires Hurling Club. The Buenos Aires Hurling. Isn't that amazing? 1910. So I'm going to call on Damien Martin, who was also born in Garrycastle, to present Rene with a copy of William Bulfin's Rambles in Erin. Okay?
Thank you.
Lovely to see you, and you're very welcome to Banagher.
Thank you very much indeed.
I'm very happy.
Hurley Club.
I'd like to know, yeah, Hurley Club, right.
I know Hurley Club. Founded in 1922.
Right.
Rugby and hurley play, and hockey, the girls.
Foreign games as well. Should they play rugby? Only the hurling. My grandfather, in the 1920s, Mr. Ferry, came from Portumna. You must be the house on the right hand side when you turn the corner, and Ferry's name is over the door.
Yes,
That's your
that's me.
house. But my grandfather came from Portumna. But he had a business in Banagher, he had a butcher shop in Banagher. And he bought Garrycastle in the 1920s. So I often wondered who the people were that had been there beforehand. You know, as a kid, you go up and you walking through the cellars and you go up into the attic, and I was always aware that there was a history to this place. And I often wondered what sort of a shower were in it before before our crowd got here.
Thank you very much.
Anyhow,
Okay.
Damien, thank you very much. I call on Sheila Keenan to present a copy of that piece Banagher to Anna Dora, the ambassador, in memory of her visit to Banagher. It's a book which myself and Sheila's late husband completed.
Thank you very much.
It was launched last year, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chapter.
I'm sure it's I think what's the name of Argentina?
Oh, and the Armstrong.
Yes, I mentioned it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're very welcome.
Once again, thank you for really turning up in such huge numbers. That's great. So we leave it at that and bring in Eduardo and Rene and Anna Laura, if she wishes, to Finn's for revelry, food and wine and everything. We might go on to Corrigan's because Sean's a fine collection of whiskies.
James,
Yes.
tell that I came with the flags. Please.
Came with the flags.
No. No, las llevo. Las dejo, se las dejo. I give the flags here, eh? I give the flags.
Leave this. Thank you. For the next talk. for the Dolphins. For the Dolphins. And a big thank you to Pouring Siri from Offaly History, who came all the way from Tullamore at short notice to record this, as I described it, I think, in the newspaper, as a major historic event. And it's good to have these things recorded, and we should do that more often. Okay?